Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the rod shop. Today we're going to keep working on the C6O2 rods and finish up the crazy G2 carbon fiber handle assembly. So stick around. Okay, when we left off last, we had assembled, partially assembled, reel seats and foregrips, locking nuts, and butt cap, at least the pin part of it. And what we're going to do today is we're going to finish putting together the whole handle assemblies. So here's one of the C6O2 rods. I have already splined it. We're going to need to find the opposite side or the top of the blank, and that will become obvious here in a little bit. So let's go ahead and find the opposite side of this blank. I'll show you how to do that again real quick. So I'm just going to mark on my second roll of tape here where I've got it overlapped a little bit. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to fold it back down on itself, right where that mark is, and then I'm pushing the tape back around the other side, and where the crease is half the distance around the blank, because you basically just took that piece of tape and cut it in half. Now I'm going to put an A here, and you'll see why in a minute. There is a maker's mark on this butt part of the handle assembly that I like to get on the top just because it's a nice touch. So last time we started kind of pre-assembling the reel seat, so let's get our layout done. Now if we have this completely assembled, this trigger is going to be at 11.5. So there's my 11.5 mark. Now this butt piece will not go up inside of the reel seat. Now what I've done here is I've put my tape mark at the very longest that this butt piece can be. I'm going to cut it in about the middle here to give us a little room to play with. So let's cut some carbon fiber. I'm going to put a bit of a dust mask on here that I can still talk through. I got yelled at a little bit last time. Safety glasses, because there are splinters that may pop off. I've got my trash box down here, and again I'm going to try to get where you guys can actually see what I'm doing. Don't know how successful I will be at that. This is the piece that we're going to cut. I'm going to cut it with the cutoff blade in my angle grinder. So I'm going to cut right in the middle of the tape here. Pretty easy. Not exactly a super straight cut, but close enough. Doesn't have to be. It's all going to be hidden inside the handle assembly. Does leave a little bit of a burr on it though, so I'm going to take a little file here and just knock that burr off, because it will slice you up a little bit. Okay, nice and smooth. Now, the first part of building this, now that we've got it cut to the proper length, this will actually slide up here now like it's supposed to. It's going to go up right here. And slide it right out to 11.5, no problem. And there we go. There is our handle assembly, what it will look like when we're done. So we're going to put this aside for a minute. And the first part we need to take care of is there is a built-in arbor right in there. And that's the only arbor in this butt piece. So what we need to do is ream this hole to this diameter. So let's get some reaming tools out here. I'll go with the first reamer, which is the smallest one, because this is a 1/8 inch hole. I'm going to ream it so you can see it. Move up on the reamer size. Now, I would check it there, but I know it's pretty close. I've already done one this morning. So I'm going to ream just a little bit more. That should take care of that. Now, all you really need to do to check for size is I'm going to slide it on here backwards. And that's perfect. In fact, you could be a little bit loose because there is a tricky part here in a minute, which I'm going to open this up a hair more. There will be a tricky part where you will need to get this piece up on that rear arbor without being able to see it. So having it just a hair loose is probably a good idea, especially on your first one. Okay, now we need to go about the business of building some tape arbors. So the first thing I will do is I'm going to mark the end of this butt section. Got it flush with the end of the blank. And put a quick mark on here. Fold that tape over. And now, with the half-inch masking tape, I'm going to start building an arbor. So I'll get this one built. Slide it up on the end. That's the tricky section. Told you it was tricky. There it is. And that's perfect. Just a little bit of a wiggle. I'm going to tighten it up a little bit more. There we go. That's quite a bit better. Still got just a hair of a wiggle. Not bad. Alright, let's build an intermediate. And I'm going to build one in the back here, but I want to make sure I'm at least, probably I need to be at least that far back so it doesn't interfere with this arbor. I'm going to put one in about right here. I think I'm going to put just a little bit more on this one. Alright, now we've got our arbors in. We've got our 2-piece butt cap here. Have a little bit of overrun on the tape, on the original glue up there. I got that peeled off. Okay, now I'll keep these here. We know where the top of the blank is, and I put an A there. Now, American Tackle puts a maker's mark right here. It's kind of hard to see. It's just an AT, just very lightly in that carbon fiber. I'm going to call that the top of this handle assembly, which I'm going to put on the top of the blank. It makes no difference from a performance standpoint. It's just it's a tiny little detail that I obsess about those kind of things, honestly. So anyway, there we go. The one other thing I'm going to do is to make cleanup a little easier is I'm going to put some tape here. And then I'm going to fold a tag on it so I can peel it very easily later, and you'll see why. And I got a scratch there. That is no bueno. Did I do that? Well, I'm going to try buffing that out later. We'll see how that turns out. It just looks like a surface scratch. So, okay. Now, paste. Time to glue it up. Makes up quite a large amount of your 2-part epoxy paste. Figures you're going to need it. Alright, now we're going to thoroughly coat this into the blank here. And we're going to coat it about even with the top of our arbors, is the goal. And I'm even going to stuff a little in the base of the rod blank here. Alright, now we got to fit it up. So carefully, you're going to slide this butt piece up to this first arbor. Keep working our way up. All right, that's the rear arbor. There it goes. It slid on. Now we get this last front arbor to go forward. Here we go. I'm going to peel some of this excess off. I'm worried about getting all of it off. And then we're going to slide it up. And that's even with the butt of the blank here. I'm going to set my AT on top. We'll have to check it a few times. We're going to start with it on top. Where did it go? I tell you, it's hard to see. There's a very minor little maker's mark there. is. Alright, so that's on top now. Now, next thing we want to do is we're going to pack this back cavity here. And I know you won't be able to see it, but it's basically this piece here minus where the blank is. There's about a 1/4 inch gap all the way around. So we're going to start packing that in. In fact, I may slide this back a little bit and make it a little easier to do. Alright, that's part of it. Slide it back and forward where it belongs. Pack the rest of it in there. Now you guys can see I've got it packed completely full of epoxy. Now what you do is your 2-piece butt cap here. What I will do is I'm just going to snap it in and then I'm going to place it. This pin goes right in into the blank. See, that's tight to the blank there. Now you have to slide your butt grip piece back. And then we'll just need to clean up that epoxy that squished out. So I'll start with a dry paper towel. I'll go with wet alcohol here. Now I'm going to need to push it back again. Clean that again. And there's quite a bit of air trapped in it, so you see where it's wanting to slide back off. Okay, so that is tight together and uptight against the butt of the blanket itself. Keeps wanting to come back apart. Alright, so I'm holding pressure both ways with my left hand here. Make sure I don't have any fingerprints on there. I'm still holding. Grab some masking tape to make sure it stays where it belongs. Still clean. Alright, that's going to keep these 3 pieces together. We're going to check our mark again. There's the top. There's the AT, almost covered it with tape. That's pretty good. Now the last thing we want to do is clean up this front edge. You don't have to worry about cleaning it up around the blanket itself, but you do need to get any of that residue off. Of the handle assembly, because it'll get in the way when we get to the next part. And we're going to make sure that we've got all of the epoxy off of this butt section. A little bit right there still. Okay, there's your butt section. Check the maker's mark one more time on the money, and then we'll stand it up and let that epoxy cure. And then we'll jump to the second part, which this is one I built about an hour ago. Exactly the same steps. And we'll get started mounting what is essentially the rear grip and the rear seat. So don't go away, let me get cleaned up here. Okay, so we've got, this is dry, it's pretty clean. This was a piece that we glued in when we started these handle assemblies. Now, I told you to be careful not to get too much glue in here. And I got a little bit extra in there, so what I'm going to do is take my X-Acto knife and just very carefully shave out any excess. We're going to need to slide. We're going to need that part to slide up over this part pretty easily. Okay, that's good there. Let's slide this on. Where's the real seat? And we'll check our layout one more time. And one of these 11.5. That is an 11.5 trigger. I'm going to put one tape reference point for the front of this real seat, and that will dictate how everything else goes together. It's a tight fit. Okay, back up on the stand. Just let you guys down. So, here's the trick. The first two of these I ever built failed. And the reason they failed is I wound up with a huge air gap in here, which is fairly easy to do. And subsequently I had to figure out a way to stop from doing that again. So here's what I have come up with. So first thing we'll do is we'll build an arbor in that real seat right there. Maybe. And once I've got some debris inside there, which I do have a little. I've got a little bit of excess glue inside the reel seat insert. Also told you not to do that, but it's easily fixable. Just trimming out just this minor amount from the inside of the reel seat insert. And it's just a tiny little bit. It was enough to mess everything up, so. Let's see if it'll work now. Actually, I may have that arbor just a little too big. Looks like I do. Let's take a wrap or two off of it. There we go. Now this is what we want it to look like finished. Right there. Just like that. So a couple things we need to work on. One, we have the front of the reel seat with this witness tape here. We know we're going right to the back of that. And then I'm going to put a very light pencil mark, which the pencil's easy to get off after the fact. Where that's going to go to the back. If you're building a longer handle, that you could probably slide this back, but since we have the 11.5, if you're building a 13-inch handle, this will be no problem. You'll be able to slide it all the way back, but we don't have that. So like I said, I had the first two fail. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a couple arbors in here to make sure I can keep them full of epoxy while I'm putting it together. So first one is going to go just inside of that mark. So I'm going to slide this back again. I'm going to build one here. Now the reason I'm building this arbor is we're going to pack this area back here behind this arbor full of as much epoxy paste as we can get in it. Now the reason we want to do that is we want to force this epoxy paste to stay in this area. This will be easy enough to get paste in. This area back here is hard to get it to stay in. So by building that tape arbor, all of the epoxy that we put back here will stay there. And this is a smaller area, smaller volume area back here than it is here. So we'll be able to, it'll be completely full of paste. I'm going to tighten that up just a bit more. There we go, that's nice and snug. That'll come up here to that mark. This will slide back here. And it'll all go together just like that. Okay, let's mix up some paste and get to building. And we're going to slide this forward to there. Slide that back as far as we can without scratching or getting it stuck. You don't want to put a lot of pressure on that because that aluminum ring could scratch the carbon fiber. And somehow I've scratched it already a little bit. You want to buff it out. You don't want to be having to buff it out unless you have to. Okay, let's mix up another plate full of paste here. We need a pretty good amount. We won't need quite as much as we did the first time, but I'd always rather mix up too much and throw some away than be scrambling to mix up a new batch while the clock's ticking on the first batch. Alright, first thing we're going to do is we're going to pack this in here. And then we're just going to start sliding it forward and spinning. There's our pencil mark. I'm going to take this excess and just lay it down. Alright, that should be more than enough because it's really gonna push back. I just wanted to make sure that we had all the nooks and crannies filled. I'm not going to worry about getting it too clean. I'm just getting some of that bulk excess off for now. We're going to squeeze a bunch more out there. Okay, so we've got a trigger mark. Got some on my hands there. There. I'm going to start spinning. Okay, now we're going to need to take quite a bit of that out, excess out. Smother that out. Okay. Still on our mark here. And we need to find our trigger. know you got it full epoxy when the air to kind of push it off like it's doing right there. You can see that slide back off, and that's nothing but air pressure trapped inside. Because the epoxy won't let it go out this end or this end. So let's get some of that cleaned up while we're fighting with that little bit of slide there. And the pencil mark still on the money. Got a little, it's trying to leak out on that side still. This is when I told you we pre-glued all these other pieces in, because this is the point which you need at least 3 hands. Get all of this clean, lined up, trigger is slid off its mark. It's trying to slide away. I'm going to tape it together, but I want to make sure I get it clean first. I don't want any of this epoxy residue underneath the tape, because it would be permanent. Still trying to move just a hair. I'll take a couple pieces of tape, tear off some short pieces and stick it to my stand here. Alright, we'll squeeze it together one more time. Do one final check of cleaning up. And then we'll tape it together. Okay. Go from the reel seat back into the rear grip area. I'm going to turn and do the same thing from the reel seat. And I'll probably put one more on. It still wants to move just a hair. Okay. That is finished, and see there's just a little bit of residue there that I missed. Now this is what it looks like when you get it done and then you fished it for quite a while and beat the crap out of it. This is one I broke about a year ago, but very well balanced, very solid in your hand. The only difference is this is a blade. This is actually a razor. Nope, that's the blade. Reel seat, this is the Vibe reel seat. That's the only difference. Same insert, same hood, same butt piece. Everything's the same. But they look great, they fish great. They're just complicated to build. When this sets up in about 30 minutes, all you have to do is slide the seat lock with the foregrip on it, and it'll screw right up and it would be complete. When we go to wrapping and then doing the epoxy ramps here, we're going to have to leave it on the blank but tape it up here out of the way. I'll show you how to do that. But that's it for assembly of the handle. The only one that's going to be different is the one I'm building for myself. And I'm going to use one of these additional spacers. So what I've done is I actually cut it a little shorter to make up for that additional space there, the weight. But that's it for putting a G2 handle assembly together. When we come back, we're going to start with the guide layout with the titanium torzite guides and with a metallic red Fuji thread. It's going to look great. Maybe we put a silver trim accent piece in it. But that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.